The Caledonia Warriors are back at the state tournament once again. They got there with a 19-3 victory last Friday night in the sectional final over Rochester Lourdes. Head coach Carl Fruechte joining us. And coach, got to start the conversation with their defense once again. You only give up 3 points. That's putting yourself in a pretty good position to win a football game. That side of the ball seemingly getting better and better by the week. How you doing it?
Yeah, I mean, great defensive schemes by our defensive coaches. They're doing a great job, and guys are really paying attention to their footwork and their hand placement. And the big thing that it really thrills me is the trust. We're really communicating and trusting one another, and we're not flying out of our gaps because we're worried about somebody else not doing their job. So, I know that sounds really simple, but that's about as complicated as we want it to get. And our kids are listening and playing extremely hard. And again, they're just flying around making plays, and that makes us very proud.
And seemingly, from what you're telling me, you're playing fast, you're playing free, but you're also playing disciplined at the same time. Sometimes those things don't go hand in hand. How have you been able to connect the two?
Yeah, just I think the kids deserve all the credit there, right? I mean, they're just the level of maturity has really increased during the football season, which again, in the big scheme of things, it's not a lot of time. So that really makes us proud. And you playing somebody like Rochester Lords, right? Option football is assignment football, and they're very well coached. Mike and his staff do a great job. They're very well disciplined, right? That's why option football works in high school, and of course we do see it popping up more and more at the especially the pro level. But it's because you got to be disciplined, and you can't just fly around and miss tackles because that's what they're hoping for. So yeah, just really doing a nice job, and obviously we got to step it up here this Saturday.
And you made enough timely plays on the offensive side of the ball to get that lead and milk away the ball game offensively. How have you evolved and adapted over these last few games to make sure you're still playing football?
Yeah, again, I've said it a couple times. Darren, and I know you get this. The football season isn't that long, and we went from Grant, King being our quarterback, and then unfortunately, he hurt his shoulder, and then we rotate a lot of guys. I mean, that was one thing I was really proud of Friday. Max gets hurt, and Owen Von Arks just knows that he's the next guy in. He runs in, he long snaps, and he's gotten a ton of reps over the season, and he was confident, and he did his great job. Great job. Same with Kame Crodenbush for Maddox Walk, and Logan Lutchins for Devin Schulte, and those are things we work at all the time. But Grant was going to be our quarterback, but now it's Will. Will technically wanted to be a wide receiver, but again, a bunch of unselfish kids, Darren, which really makes me proud. And Will right now is just really being a great leader. I mean, probably the turning point was halftime when he told everybody, just relax. We're a better football team than these guys. We just got to go do it. And it was perfect. So Will is getting better. Our offensive line is moving their feet better than ever before. For the most part, we're keeping our hands inside. We did get called for a couple of holding calls that just drive me crazy because they'll tell me, "Hey, Carl, I was keeping my hands inside." Well, then you look at tape and they're almost hugging the guy, and it's like, I get it, I get it. It's a hard position to play, right? You got a 260-pound guy trying to run you over, but we're getting better and better. We're getting more disciplined. We got to make sure holding calls are just so hard to overcome, especially in high school football. So wide receivers are blocking and keeping good spacing and things like that, and running really good routes. And there too, guys are getting more confident, Darren. Guys are catching the ball confident. We sort of stole Coach Schmitz's, from UND. He has a term up at North Dakota, flush it. And we've really adopted that this year. So if we drop a ball, flush it. If you get a holding call, flush it. So our kids are really listening to that.
How have you been able to instill that unselfishness, knowing the fact that, yeah, this might not be the role that I want, but this will be the role that will help the team the most? How have you been able to instill that with your group?
Well, I think you got to really talk a lot about it, Darren. Again, these are great kids, but our society, right, is it's all about me, 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 and I think To be honest, Darren, I think, it starts at the top. Uh, I make it very clear to everybody that without, Brett Knudsen, Brent Schrader, Zach Hauser, John Hauser, I'm not even going to name them all because, right, I'll forget them. Darren Walk, all the coaches are invested and are doing their best for the kids. And without that, we aren't Caledonia football. I get a little bit embarrassed, when you know they just I'd rather not have this media, to be honest with you, Darren. I don't need it. I don't care about it. I just want to coach football. And so I try to make it very clear that our assistant coaches are a huge part of what we do. And then we really praise our second and our third string guys, right? Scout O, Scout D. Uh, I make sure that when they're doing the things that are mimicked by the other school, that we go out of our way to praise them because it is extremely important. And we try not to beat up on those guys. Back in the 80s, right? You sort of ground this. I remember being a Scout O, Scout D guy. They just got buried. Well, we don't do that. Um, we try to keep everybody up and everybody fresh and make sure that they're getting to where they belong. So they're giving the good look. And I think you got to really pray, if you're going to call it a team, you got to praise everybody who's contributing. So that's what we're trying to do, Darren.
And when you look at this time of year, getting to the state tournament like you've done plenty of times before, how much of it this time of year is just the simplicity of keeping this particular group together for one more week and as long as possible?
Yeah, I think that's what you're looking for. It's, like I told one of the reporters Friday after game, um, I know I've been made fun of for saying it, but I don't really care. We've never had a bad season. Some have just ended sooner than others, and I mean that. You enjoy these young people; they're great kids. You just want to be with them more. It's what we think. Our country should be like is hardworking, never give up attitude young men, and that's what we feel like we got. I think honestly, Darren, I think all of southeastern Minnesota has that type of an athlete, and that's what we're proud of, and we just want to keep it going because you enjoy being with them.
And this Saturday night, you head up to Orono, and Jackson County Central is going to be your opponent. I know you faced him in the state tournament a couple of years ago. I'm guessing the last time you saw him live, you and I were doing a game on TV together when they were in the
Sure.
semifinals a couple of years ago. What about this year's Jackson County Central team impresses you?
Everything. They're just big and physical, and they're fast and they're well coached, and honestly, Darren, just glad to have the opportunity to play them. You know, uh, it's something that I dreamt about this summer, and I shared that with the team. And when it came to fruition, you know, they were all like, "Wow, it's coming true." And it's yeah, I mean, you got to beat the best. You got to play the best to be the best. And JCC right now is the hot team, and they're doing a great job, and just big and physical. And we got to make sure we get them behind the sticks, Darren.
All right, Coach. Congrats on getting to the state tournament, and hopefully this run can keep going. Keep your kids healthy. We wish best of luck Saturday night, and I'm always welcome to another conversation with you
Yeah.
next week, Coach, and hopefully we can have that opportunity.
Yeah, I enjoy our talks, Darren. I respect you and appreciate you very much. I love how you get the big picture of high school football. So thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Carl Fruechte, head coach of the Caledonia Warriors. It's Caledonia and Jackson County Central on Saturday night at Orono.